Treachery, treason, demise and resurrection. There is one castle in the county of Warwickshire that can lay claim to all of this and more. Warwick Castle. 10 centuries of history soaked into this ground and these walls. A building that has survived challenges both ferocious and financial. And this is where it all started, on this great big earth mound, 2 years after the Norman invasion of 1066. William the Conqueror ordered Henry de Beaumont to build a motte-and-bailey castle right here, overlooking Warwick in a key position of strength. It was basically a statement of intent to ward off any English uprising. The motte-and-bailey castle was built mainly of timber and was quick and easy to assemble. It was given to the first of many Earls of Warwick, Henry de Beaumont, whose job it was to govern the land and keep law and order amongst the people. But motte-and-bailey castles weren't built to last, so with the Earl's money, the wooden castles were reinforced with stone in 1260. The stone was brought and transported from local quarries and built around the original footprint of the old castle. Now, while the walls were incredibly strong, the Earl behind them wasn't. The 8th Earl of Warwick, William Mordaunt, was seen as indecisive and weak. An attack was launched upon the castle from neighbouring Kenilworth Castle. And with weapons like that, even the strongest walls would crumble. The trebuchet was the largest and most formidable siege weapon used in medieval times. In essence, it was an enormous catapult. Well, this is a reconstruction of a trebuchet built on notes and drawings from the 14th century, based on that, so it's absolutely accurate. And it's an incredible piece of engineering. As you can see, it's about 18 metres high. It weighs a massive 22 tonnes. And it can throw an object 25 metres in the air at a distance of 300 metres. So it's the ideal weapon to attack your enemy with. It's built of oak, incredible tensile strength the oak has. But the throwing arm, that's made of ash. And the grain in ash allows it to be much more flexible and pliable. It's got a whippiness to it. But this is it. So as you can see, look, they're winding up the windlass. The throwing arm's going down. It gets attached by a locking mechanism. So it's fully in place, and when it's ready to go, the ammunition is loaded. You can see the sling is on the end of this rope here, and on the other end of the pulling arm, you've got a ballast box, and that ballast box is full of around 5 tonnes of rock. So when the mechanism is pulled, that ballast box drops straight to the ground incredibly fast, whipping the throwing arm right up in the air, hurling your ammunition towards the enemy. You wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that, because it'd literally just go poof. Yes. Oh, what a wonderful cheer from over there. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom! Wow. Oh my gosh. That is incredible. That was incredible. That was absolutely incredible. Wow, look at the whippiness in that throwing arm still. And you can see how beautifully counterbalanced it is now with that ballast box full of 5 tonnes of rocks. The trebuchet and other tools of war caused major damage to the castle in the 13th century. The north wall was torn down and the towers were starting to crumble. Fortunately, in the 14th century, the Earl stepped in and reinforced Warwick Castle, building the front facade, which has become one of the most recognisable examples of 14th century military architecture. But as the centuries changed, so did the fate of the castle. Historian Adam Busiakevich told me more.
In the Tudor period, this castle was, believe it or not, seen as old-fashioned. Nobody really wanted to spend the huge amounts of money to rebuild it or even remodel it, so there we go.
So what happened to the castle in the end?
Well, in the 16th century, during the Elizabethan period, believe it or not, Warwick Castle became a prison for a while. Still, we have on the walls all these types of scratchings and graffiti that prisoners left.
Oh, that's quite lovely, actually. So even the walls are permeating history. Warwick Castle was dying. The towers began to fall, and what had been a symbol of strength now looked weak and withered. But hope was not lost. Enter Fulke Greville, the man responsible for restoring a dilapidated castle into a magnificent country home. He was given the castle by James I with a value of around £470. He saw the potential in it and ploughed a huge amount of cash into its restoration, somewhere in the region of £20,000, and at the time that was absolutely millions. Much of what you see today is thanks to the Grevilles. Fulke Greville used architects who were the first to go on a grand tour of Europe and witness classical design and architecture. The Red Room shows elements of that design, particularly the ceiling when you look up there and you see the classical ornamentation, that repetitive form of decoration inspired by the classical Renaissance, something you'd see in an Italian villa. Yet when you look at the walls, you see traditional panelling from floor to ceiling. Note the absence of a dado rail, a very important architectural detail which you'd expect to see with a ceiling like that and a cornice like that, but it's not there. So that tells us this is a transition from the old to the new. Now, the room would have changed colours many times with each different owner, but thanks to the Grevilles, this room has remained very special. Warwick Castle stayed with the descendants of Greville for 374 years. That's 9 generations. But it was sold in 1978 to the Tussauds Group. Now it's being kept alive by actors telling the castle's history. War, triumphs, imprisonment and transformation. Warwick Castle has seen it all. Its stone has survived centuries of decay and seen some colourful characters along the way. And as the saying goes, if only